Hey, it's Brian Mudd. This is my cheat sheet for Wednesday, December 5th. Okay, so we're going to get into the mortgage interest deduction, but first I want to start with something that you would put that mortgage interest deduction claim into. That would be your 2012 tax form. I'd heard from CPAs, but I ended up receiving another email from one yesterday who said, this is just frustrating. I've got clients that are going to want to file in early January, and I can't get 2012 tax forms to be able to begin the prep work because the IRS hasn't made them available. What gives? Well, here's what gives. Even though the fiscal cliff debate will likely not affect anything from the 2012 tax year, the IRS does want to take a chance that Congress passes some law between now and December 31st that alters the taxation of something through the course of the 2012 tax year. So what the IRS has done is made the decision that they will not release 2012 tax forms until we get to January. So again, it's unlikely, if you're working on prep work for your taxes, that anything will change. So the landscape you currently know likely will be the landscape that you actually can file with in January, but those official forms not going to be available until January, much to the frustration of people that want to be early filers and CPAs and accountants that want to get an early jump on the prep work for that service. And again, you can thank your fine friends in Congress for this one. All right, and now let's talk about the mortgage interest deduction. You're not hearing a lot about the mortgage interest deduction, at least not since the end of the election. Remember Romney, he had that as one of the potential caps you would have on for upper income earners. You would have a certain limit that you could deduct in a given year, and beyond that, certain deductions like the mortgage interest deduction might not be available to you at that point. Well, you don't hear that being talked about day to day, but you've heard about these closed door talks. One of the big issues, one of the big items, even included in Boehner's proposals, the possibility of the means testing of the mortgage interest deduction or the outright elimination of the mortgage interest deduction. Now, most homeowners will finance will cry foul about this one. Any of your real estate groups are going to cry foul about this one because it's an outright incentive to buy a home versus renting. Here's where this one might end up going down, though. If they get rid of the mortgage interest deduction as part of the fiscal cliff negotiation, it's going to happen for this particular statistic. Right now, only 26% of Americans utilize the mortgage interest deduction. Only 26%. So when we're talking about this fiscal cliff crisis, if you're going to choose unpopular or popular items to get rid of to try to bridge the gap in this fiscal cliff, the mortgage interest deduction is only going to end up negatively impacting less than a quarter of Americans. And while they'll be pissed off, it's better than taking something that more than half the country utilizes, right? And that is where this could end up being an issue. Keep in mind that, as I've been talking about local real estate, what have we seen throughout the course of 2012 in Palm Beach County? Well, about 70% of all homes being purchased are being purchased with cash, meaning that there would only be 30% of the new homeowners, even locally, that would even have a mortgage today to potentially utilize that deduction tomorrow. And that's assuming that people are itemizing or need it. If you're taking a look at the Treasure Coast, the number's over 60%. So as more cash has been factored into this equation too, you're actually seeing fewer and fewer people progressively make use of that mortgage interest deduction. That's something that could end up becoming a big issue, though, if you count on that deduction every year to help lower your overall tax burden, if that's part of your tax strategy, because that could end up costing you thousands of dollars in additional taxes, which will lead me to my next one, which is the dividend cliff. We've already seen so far 110 companies announce special dividends to pay out extra amounts of money before the end of the year because of the possibility of dividend taxes going from 15% to as high as nearly 44% come January 1st as part of the fiscal cliff situation that we're staring at if dividends are taxed as ordinary income, as President Obama has asked for. And here's the thing. All told, $22 billion in special dividends have been paid out so far. The tax that will be paid in 2012 on those dividends, $3.3 billion. If we go into next year with what President Obama has outlined that he would like those dividend taxes to be, guess what the tax burden on that $22 billion worth of dividends being paid out would be? It wouldn't be $3 billion anymore. It would be nearly $13 billion. Think about that for a moment. $22 billion in dividend payouts, nearly $13 billion in tax burden. That doesn't even seem feasible, does it? I mean, somehow or another, that's more than about half. something not seem right? And that is the reason that the taxes on investment are the most regressive of all. Because ultimately, you're taking money from investors, money that would have to come from somewhere. And if you don't get to keep that money, because the majority of dividends that are paid out in this country are actually reinvested. They're not actually just used to fund things day to day, although more seniors have been looking to do that. So here's what you're going to end up seeing. If you end up having taxes raised on dividends and capital gains, the way the president's asked for, you're going to have dramatically less money invested at any given time, which again means fewer opportunities for economic growth, fewer companies that are going to have money to expand, less upward mobility, and ultimately less income. So that is why dividends above all else in capital gains, tax increases there are the most regressive. And remember, any money that's invested was already taxed when it was earned originally, so it's already doubled to triple taxation. That's the cheat sheet for today. Enjoy yours. We shall see you tomorrow.